Hello everyone, in this video we're going to talk about conditional statements. Now, in the previous video we talked about conditional statements using the if keyword. So in this video we're going to talk more about conditional statements, and we're going to use the if keyword, but we're also going to use another keyword called else. So we're going to use two conditional statements in this video. Now we're going to use a similar example to our previous video just to keep things simple. So we're going to start off by creating an age variable. So let age, we're going to set it to 25. So for this example, we want to check to see if somebody is eligible to work. So we want to see if they're greater than the age of 16. So if you remember from our previous video, we would use our if statement here, and inside our if statement we would take our variable, so our variable is age. We would then use the greater than sign and then compare it to some value. And we're using 16 here because 16 is the legal working age in Ireland. Then we move into using our curly brackets, and we could bring this curly bracket down to the next line, or we could just leave it after our round bracket here. I prefer to leave it after the round bracket. You can do whatever you want, whichever is, more readable, or whatever way you're able to understand the code yourself. It's personal preference. So within this then, we used a console log, and we logged out whatever. So you can put anything in here. Our console log in this example is just really a check to see, has the condition been met or has it not been met? So we would put something like eligible to work or something like that as our console log. Eligible to work. Now, if we go and run this, we are going to get our output as eligible to work. So we're going to see the text eligible to work. But imagine we weren't eligible to work. So in our last example, if we were 12 and we went and ran this program, we would see nothing, okay? So that's okay, but we can make this a lot better. So if we put this back to 25, because that's our age, and after this second curly bracket, we can use another keyword called else. So we can have else, and then after else, we're going to have another two curly brackets. And within these curly brackets, an action that will happen if this first conditional statement is false. So for example, let's say the age is less than 16. This won't be printed out. Could we see that when we put in our age as 12? But if we have an else statement, this will be then executed. So if I put in something like this, maybe console.log. But now if I go and run this program again, I'm going to see eligible to work because I changed my age back to 25. But if I change this to 12, which I had before, my output was just nothing. It was blank. This debug console here had no text in it whatsoever. But if I go and run this now, since I put this else statement in there, we'll see the text not eligible to work. So I'm going to go and run this now, and we can see not eligible to work. Now this here, the way it's structured, it works fine. I prefer to clean it up a little bit more. So I almost prefer to get my first curly bracket and leave it on the same line as my conditional statement. So you can see with my if here, I have my curly brace just after the second round bracket, and with my else statement, I have it on the same line. Then I also on the following line have whatever I want to do, and then I close it on the following line. So if I just tidy this up here, this is the way that I like the code. This is the way that I think it looks nice, and I can read it much easier. There's some people that would rather have it maybe like this. You could also have it like this if you wanted to. You can have it any way you want. Once the content is within these curly brackets, and you open and close your curly bracket before you open your else statement. Like for example, if we go and run this now, we can see we get the exact same output. So it's just a little bit of personal preference and whatever you feel is the most readable for you. When you're starting off, you probably don't really care too much once your program's working, but as you work on your programs more and more, you'll find that when you go over something and you read over your code and you try and implement, new things and play around with stuff, you try and keep your code so that it all looks the one way rather than just it all being different. So in my previous video, I went through a second example with a name. So I'm going to go through a similar example here. So I'm going to get rid of all this. I'm going to start from scratch because I think that's almost a good way, get rid of all your code and start writing from scratch. It sort of trains your mind to not just be deleting variables and filling new ones in. If you go and have to start from scratch, I feel that it's a better way of learning how to program. So we're going to start off again. We're going to create a variable this time. We're going to call it name, and in name we're going to put our string of characters, which is going to be Ryan. So let's jump into it. So let name equals Ryan. So now what we want to do is we want to go and check to see if this variable name is Ryan. Okay, so we have if, and within this we're going to use our name variable, so name. And last time we were checking for if the age was greater than. Now in this we're using a different operator. We're using a comparison operator. So we use our double equals. We could also use triple equals in this case, but for this example we're just going to go with double equals because it'll be good enough. And now we want to put in what we're looking for, or what we want to compare it to. So we're going to compare it to Ryan. So we place in Ryan, and then we put our curly brackets. So we want to say something. If our name is indeed equal to Ryan, we want to print out something. Console.log. And within our console.log, we'll just say something like, hello, Ryan. Now, since we've learned about our if statement, we want to print out something else if your name is not Ryan, okay? So let's say we have something like this. So we're going to use our if statement with our curly brackets, and we're going to console log something else. So within this else statement, we're going to console log I don't know you. So now we can see that our variable is set to Ryan. So if we go and run this now, we'll see that we get our output as hello Ryan. But imagine we used a different name. Imagine we used something like Chris, okay? If we go and run this, we'll see I don't know you. So we can't check to see if our name is Ryan or Chris. What we could do is we could say something like this. We could have name equals Ryan, and we could use our and operators like this, and we could say name equals and then the word Chris. But then the problem we run into here is if our name is equal to Chris, we're going to console log hello Ryan. So it doesn't really make much sense. So we'll see one way that we can get around this in the next video, and it's actually using an else if statement. So in the previous video we used if statements. In this video we used else statements. In the next video we're going to use if statements, else statements, and else if statements. And hopefully you'll be able to get an idea of how they can all be used to create our programs.